opportunity established here for you to participate in what should be a revolution. Just kind of briefly, who else here? Like, how many of you? Unfortunately, I'm not selling anything, so I can't really help you too much. So, how many here are buying? I did, as Ted said, I used to work at a couple manufacturers, and so I have to, any of you that were involved in the retail business that I was involved with, I have to apologize for all the things I did. I'm a recovering factory guy. And, any factory people here? No, okay, we're safe. The other thing I'd like to do is I am working now with Hyundai, and they have, I wanted to make sure that this was a good transfer of information. Ted said if I did a good job, I get a free lunch, so I don't have to pay. Maybe some of you did. And so Hyundai was kind enough to let me announce that if you pay attention at the end of my discussion, I'm going to ask a question of somebody, and if you get it right, they've given me the approval to give away a car. So I think you'll like it. It's a Tucson. We can always, somebody up here was with permaplate was. But in all seriousness, the message that I'd like to leave, and it's important, I think, that we keep in mind that this transformation that we're going through as an industry is one that is not out there and it's somebody else's business. It's everybody in this room. You're responsible to make this happen for your business, for your customers, for your family, for your kids, or for anybody you may want to think to enter the business going forward. Because the fact is, I'm convinced that the retail dealer franchise value has peaked. It may be last year, it may be next year, but we're at peak value for most of the dealerships that exist today. That's a fact. People can't grasp that, and when you hear that, what do? And therefore I tend to not do anything. But the reality is, if you look at the structural changes that are occurring in our society and in our business, that an independent auto dealership may not ever be worth as much as it is today. And so some, in fact, many of the forecasts I've seen predict that there will be a decline in the number of dealers in the next 10 years. You've read that, haven't you? I mean, I don't know, 20, 30%?
30%.
30%. And so, will the 30% raise your hands that aren't going to be here?
They just don't know it.
You just don't know it, that's right. But seriously, we've got to take this to heart, because, and the dealers that are most vulnerable may be those that are most successful today.
That's right.
And that's because what you're doing is working, and you're not changing to make sure that you're as important tomorrow as you are today. And so it worries me. There's three things that people do when you enter a situation like this. You can lead the change, you can follow the change. My old friend Lee Iacocca taught me this. Or you can become roadkill. I added that part, but it's true. There is an interesting, while we've been practicing our business and spending 100 years, there's been a lot of things that have changed, maybe even before our knowledge. So what was isn't anymore. Not what was. So first of all, this used to be a business where people built cars and sold the product. That was. What is, it's a technology business that people are providing a service and a benefit to customers. So it was building things, and it is a service business. It was a business where dealers used to retail new cars, and fixed operations was sort of a necessary evil. You remember those days? I hated that when people would say the back end and the necessary. I came up through the service department. So it was when you sold cars and made a profit, retail. It is a business where you actually wholesale new cars. And you don't make money selling new cars. But you are retail fixed operations dealers. And that's all happened to you just while you've been going to work every day. So it was a business when 75% of the income, the profit of the dealerships came from variable. It isn't anymore. It is a business where the majority of what you're going to make is coming from fixed operations. It was a business when fixing cars was technical. And now it is a business where you're fixing people's minds, comfort, convenience. And so if we don't recognize the fact that we are now in a completely different industry, and the way our businesses, our dealerships are structured and the way we're operating, if we don't recognize this change, you will be definitely the third that won't be here. And that's a fact that you've got to understand and consider. And I realize that in our industry, in our business today, at the end of the month, you look at what the results were, and it's really difficult to justify what needs to be done. But what's driving this change? Why is this happening to us? Well, there's a lot of things outside of our control that have changed the picture of the industry. And that's something that you've got to keep in mind as well as everybody else that's involved. So it used to be that people would talk about pollution and the environment. How many people do you think die globally every year from pollution-related causes? Who wants to take a guess? 4.6 million. 4.6 million. Okay, how many people a year, and this isn't to be negative, it's to tell why this is all happening. How many people a year lose their life in traffic accidents in the globe?
6 million.
Yeah. That's right, 3 million people a year are losing their lives. How many hours a year do people spend in bumper-to-bumper traffic going nowhere? Huh? Yeah. I mean, not 1,000, but they're basically spending more time than they're on vacation, sitting in traffic in congestion, wondering what the heck they're doing there, screwing with their texts or whatever it is. The world has changed. It was, the auto business was that we had a love affair with our cars. It is a necessary evil. Cars are no longer giving us the life and the interest and the fun that they did, unless we do something about it. And so, if you think about the structural changes that have occurred in the world around us, you can understand why we see mobility emerging, electrification, we see autonomous vehicles, connected cars. All of these are happening to try and cope with these changes to maintain the ability of our society to provide transportation, to mobility, to move from point A to point B. And as that has occurred, the core of our business that used to be selling vehicles is now taking care of the customers for life in a way that they never thought possible. That's what the service department used to do and will be doing for the future. And that's a change from your standpoint. Now, how many dealerships, those of you that work in dealerships, if that's true, and if now the majority of your profit comes from fixed operations and the new car sales department makes no money, so how many of you now have transferred all of the people and the expenses from the new car department and the resources from the new car department to fixed operations. So does your service director in the dealership now make substantially more money than the sales manager? Yeah. Huh? How about the service advisors? By far, do they make more money than any salesperson does? Do they? No.
No.
Oh. What's going on? How about the technicians? Do you know that the average technician in a dealership has the second highest investment in that business? Over 100 grand. Tools. Do you know the technician that has the second highest investment in the dealership has the most training? And how much do they get paid? How much do you think about recruiting and training them? The fact of the matter is, if you don't and if you haven't, by the time this transformation occurs, you're going to be in the 1/3. I'm sorry. It's fact. And if you don't recognize the different operation that's necessary, and I don't mean say it or talk about it, it's so easy to talk about. You know, I love it when we talk politics, talk about all the politics, and I don't care about all this junk they're debating about. I want to fix the cell phones. You know, I want to make sure that the people that are driving drunk don't drive anymore. Those are the things that I worry about. So how many of you are implementing new technologies, and you're learning about it here today, new systems, new processes, to try and make sure that you maintain the profitability of your current model? And a lot of people are doing that. But how many are implementing these programs but not assuring they're being used properly? So we get all this stuff, zero. You know, all this technology we put on cars. I got in Hyundai's testing a new car. I was doing it last week. They have technology on this car that the people don't understand that are building it. I mean, I was surprised when they put automatic windshield. We had a problem when we put automatic windshield wipers on cars, because we had a lot of customers come in and complain their windshield wipers would go on without them turning the switch on. Well, I mean, that's kind of, you know, it's low tech. Now you get in a car, you turn the turn signal to the left, and the car goes and changes the lane on its own. It's kind of scary. That's right. We're moving towards a safer world, I hope. But the fact is, technology for the sake of having technology does absolutely nothing. And if your organization doesn't start with the basics of making sure what you do want to have happen is happening, and if you are sure that you've got the right people and training, the right support system for your people, and you've got the plan and the strategic activities, and most importantly, investments in new ways of doing business. And it's really hard to think about this at a time when you're trying to make more money than you made last month, last week, last year. But how many of you substantially are investing in programs and processes and technologies for the future? Seriously. I mean, a car company will take 8% of its profit and invest it in R&D for new products. Are you doing that? Again, if you're not, you're going to be in the 1/3. So the technology that's out there, the things that will be occurring, the income opportunities from connected cars, shared vehicles, from a transformation of have a digital versus a brick and mortar dealership and sales process. What, 75% of the people that come into dealerships don't want to. They do their work on, I mean, how long is that going to go? How long can you run a business where the people that are coming in don't want to come see you? And guess what? Now they have options. And they have other places to go. And so your level of competition has never been what it is. So I'm encouraging everybody to stop and think about the fact that the worst thing that you can do today is achieve good results with the old school way of doing business. And if you don't recognize that if you can change, if you could bring in some young people like John Malashenko came into Germain and has turned the thing around in a way that nobody could in the organization. The fact that you've been successful in the past is the biggest detriment to your ability to change and go forward in the new world. And it's true, and it really scares me. So my goal in trying to talk with you, and I'd be interested in your questions, is to encourage everybody here to be bold and make sure you're not in that 1/3 that's left behind or more. But it's happening, and it isn't going to happen, and by thinking it isn't, or wondering if you're going to buy time, it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. And that's the problem that you got. So I talked a little bit about the environment and the climate change. That's always a great subject. And I want to make sure that we have good engagement with our audience. Does anybody here think climate change is wrong, is fake? Put up your hand. Seriously, let me see if you have. Does anybody here think? I see a young man here from Texas. Do you think climate change is real, young man?
Well, we'll just shoot it away in Texas.
We'll shoot it away.
The question is not exactly a direct question.
Okay.
Meaning, is it man-made or is it natural? Because climate changes. So
There we go.
Climate change.
That's true. Has man made it better or worse?
It's been worse for a while, but improving now.
Okay, I got good. That's what I was looking for, and I appreciate that. I have something for you. I want you to have this. You're exact. I thought you'd be there. Here you go. No? There you go. Those are aluminum straws. And every time you suck out of those, I want you to remember your answer. I'm serious. Think about denying the fact of what's right in front of you, because you won't be here unless you're a dinosaur and you're going to make oil someday. This young lady back here was very enthusiastic when I was asking questions. So I'm going to give her my car. There you go.
You know what?
You need a car?
The right size and the right color.
Oh, okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes.
Is it EcoBoost?
It is. Well, not EcoBoost. It's Blue Line. Hyundai. Come on. Okay. So I think I've already taken up more time than I was supposed to, but I would like to ask some questions or anything in your mind. The answer will be worth what you take.
So, given all of your experience with OEMs, if a young, up-and-coming, I just took control of this company, were to ask you, can you give me 2 actionable things? What are my first 2 steps? Because I really do want to change this. I want to make a difference. What would you recommend to them?
You mean as a dealer coming in?
No. As an OEM now, he's going to change the whole.
OEM?
Yeah, the OEMs, because the dealers.
Yeah. An OEM coming in. Okay, first of all, forget it. The last thing we need is more OEMs.
Right.
That's a fact. I think it's interesting you said that, and it's another point. This is the was. Elon Musk was in grade school. Elon Musk is going to disrupt the hell out of your business. He
Already has.
And so that's that. I guess if you wanted to talk about another OEM, what % of global electric vehicles does Tesla sell? 30%. Globally, what segment of the industry is predicted to grow the most between now and 2025? Electric cars. Who has the technology and the battery capacity to do that? Who's building 3 plants right now? Tesla. So, and by the way, what Tesla stock is about 800 today?
Yeah.
Their market cap is $160 billion. It's more than GM and Ford combined, times 2. So again, if you want to talk about this disruption and what the OEMs ought to do, think of it on a microcosm in your business, in your town. Tesla's coming. and he's now approved to be a dealer in Michigan. So that dike is gone. Yes, sir.
Question for you. You see the possibility with Michigan being able to sell cars from a manufacturer's point. When do you think, or do you think that it'll be the same for repairs? Say I own Pep
Great
Boys.
question.
Say I own Pep Boys and I wanted to start doing warranty
Yeah.
repairs. Do you see that in the future?
I absolutely do. I mean,
How
those
far
are
in your
huge
view?
businesses. I'd say within the next 5 years, you're going to see more because of the lawsuits that have been filed to take the parts that have been allocated and the repair processes from the manufacturers that have only been shared with dealers, that will now be shared with independent repair shops. I mean, we're definitely moving that way. It's the consumer is trying to get the most they can out of the services that are available. But I'll tell you what, that's a great question. So that sort of gets to where service is going and how's that going to be. This new technology, one of the things also about service is that 80% of the business we used to do was warranty, and it's now 20. So we're now 80% of our business is customer pay and maintenance. So who's our competitor?
Everybody.
Pep Boys.
Everybody. Yeah.
Everybody, every shop.
Independence.
Independents. And have we been competing with the independents? Really haven't. So that's why we're in the retail business now. And when they are in it, the advantage you got is that this new technology is so sophisticated, it's going to be very difficult to be repaired in every shop. They'll be working on the older cars, you'll be working on the newer cars. Oh, which has the most profit? So you're in the retail parts and service business. You're not selling cars. And until I see a dealer, a manufacturer come to the country and establish a dealer body where the dealership is a beautiful, technically advanced service department, and you walk through the service department on the way back to the lot in the back where they've got some cars parked that you can demonstrate and they'll get them for you. That's what's going to happen. I wish somebody would do that.